Hey there, Dino Watt here, the relationship expert, and thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I actually am creating this video because I was on the podcast with Dr. Farran, and he suggested that I make this for you for DentalTown, and I'm thrilled to do so. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to share with you a few of the things that we talked about on his podcast, if you missed that, or if you did watch it, to be able to go a little deeper into it. And if you don't know me, my name is Dino Watt, and I have been in the relationship realm for the last decade. What I do is I actually help high-end entrepreneurs, doctors, orthodontists, chiropractors, dentists, actually replicate their business success into their personal relationships and vice versa. I want to help doctors have more production from their team. I want to help them have more peace inside their own life and how to profit easier based upon one specific area that I don't believe a lot of people talk about. But I wanted to just kind of have a conversation with you and talk to you about some of the areas that I think you can improve all aspects of your relationships in your business. So that's what we're going to talk about here. The title of what I want to walk you through is called The 3 Relationships That Will Transform Your Practice. And I truly believe in the power of relationships. That's why I call myself the relationship expert. The first thing I want you to think about is to think about all of the things that you have received in your life, from all the way back to when you were a childhood to now. And then I want you to think about all the things that you've received from, that you want to receive from here forward. And when I say things, I mean people, money, resources, opportunities, anything really that you can think of a thing, a tangible thing, and even an intangible thing, love, appreciation, power, stature. Everything that you have received and everything that you will receive in life is by relationships. And that was the basis of my book that I wrote. If you've read my book or if you've gotten a hold of my book called The Practice RX, it's really about how to empower your relationships around you so you can have more in your life. Now, I know this is DentalTown, right? This is something that I should be talking about how to better help people brush better, or how to fill that cavity easier, or how to have shotless numbing, or whatever it is. There's so many categories that I know are here in DentalTown. Or even if we're talking about the personal side of things, most of the times you're going to hear things like how to have better communication with your accounts receivable so you can actually get those bills paid faster, or receive money faster, or how to present your case better. Well, really, I actually think that all of that, of course not the technical side of things, but the relationship side of things, or the practice management side of things, can be solved within your relationships. Because I don't believe that there is actually any powerful practice management skills that will stick and that will be effective in your practice long term without relationship management. And the challenge is that most of you, and I'm going to say 99.9% based upon the very unscientific studies that I have done by basically having people raise their hand when I ask this question, but 99% of you never got any type of, not just business skill inside of the education that you received in college and university, but actually no communication, how to deal with life and work balance, how to deal with personal issues within the office. And for the majority of you watching this, I understand you're mostly practice owners. And if you're not even a practice owner, but you're an associate, or you're actually somebody who is part of the team inside of the office, this can help you understand how to communicate better and how to have a better relationship inside your office. And I actually think there's only really 3 relationships that you need to focus on that will transform your practice. Now, what do I mean by transform your practice? I mean both financially, emotionally, and even spiritually. And I know that's kind of woo-woo. We're not going to go into religion or spiritual stuff here, but I do want to touch on the idea of the spiritual side of how your practice makes you feel when you walk in there. Does your practice energize you, or does it suck you? Does your practice give you the feeling of creativity, or does it feel like you are just like going through the motions? Now, I'm going to guess that the majority of you got into the practice that you did and decided to go into the art of dentistry that you did because you're passionate about it, because it excites you, because it's fun. And when you're in those moments of doing the thing of practicing dentistry, you're zoned in, you're focused, you got it. And that's awesome. And then it's the moment you get out of that and you got to deal with employee issues, or vendor issues, or whatever that are client issues. that is when things kind of fall apart. Now, the majority of my clients that come to me and want to work with me mentorship-wise, because I don't consider myself a consultant, although I know that's the category that most people are familiar with. I'm actually a mentor. I'm a practice mentor. I go into practices and I see where we can improve, and I work with them on a larger scale, on a more holistic scale than just, oh, well, you need some training on how to answer the phones better. I don't know. What I'm going to do is going to show you how, because you're treating them differently and because you're looking at the relationship differently, they're going to automatically answer the phones better because there's a relationship that we're building with the client. So I'm going to guess that you are zoned in and focused on what you do, but then once you get out of it, it's all the drudgery. And like I said, the majority of my clients that come to me are ones who are kind of burned out, kind of frustrated, kind of stressed out about, why is this happening? Why can't I just focus on the things that I want to focus on, and everybody do their jobs correctly and do them right the first time, and when I ask them to do it a certain way, it doesn't end up changing back to the old ways or bad habits. And that is where people come to me and I point out to them that the reason why things don't stick, the reason why you're frustrated, the reason why there is breakdown in your practice is because you don't understand the power of these three relationships. And that's what I want to share with you today. Now, I would advise you highly to get down a piece of paper and some pen and take some notes on this and see how it affects you in your life. And some of the things you might go, well, yeah, of course that makes sense. But common knowledge isn't always common practice. And the challenge is a lot of times that we know something and we know we should do something, but actually implementing that thing and doing that thing becomes a bit of a challenge because you already got so much stuff already on your plate. So I'd like to invite you to do that. I'd like also to invite you to take some distractions out. I'm hoping that this is a little bit type of a different training than you would normally see, or a video you would see on DentalTown or anywhere else, because I'm not just a speaker, I'm not just a consultant, I'm actually a trainer. I have spent the last decade learning how to train more effectively. I mean, even what I'm doing with different colors on here, there's a reason why I use the colors, and there's a reason why I do what I do. Please don't mind my penmanship. Here I am talking to doctors about penmanship, right? But still, don't have the greatest penmanship, and I hope that this is fun and informative to you. I'd like to tell you a few stories of different doctors that I've run across and their experiences, and I'd like to show you maybe a different way of thinking. One of the things that I would like you to know is that I'm not a doctor. I'm not an orthodontist, a dentist, a chiropractor, anything like that. I actually look at everything I do as the client perspective or the patient perspective. Every office I walk into, I want to know, how does this practice make me feel? How does the doctor make me feel? How does the assistant make me feel? How does the receptionist make me feel? All of those things, that's what I'm looking for, because that's where people take what you do and make it go viral. Now, that's a big buzzword right now, or viral, where they tell all of their friends and family. We used to call it referrals. But now it's a little bit more than that. It's about it's about actually making it have a movement or a life of its own, as opposed to just asking for a referral. So I'm not any of those things, but what I am is I'm somebody who has focused my entire life on learning about relationships. My parents divorced when I was 8 years old, and that's the crux, and that's the kind of the point of impact of my story. That standing on a sidewalk watching my father drive away as an 8-year-old gave me a whole new perspective on life, because although now we live in a world where 50% of marriage is divorced, and so kids are very understanding, or at least it's commonplace to see people or know people how to divorce. I didn't know that. I lived in a small town in California, and I just heard about divorce on movies and television. None of my friends that I knew, their parents were divorced. And here I was going through this crazy experience that over the next few years I would learn some really interesting words like alimony and child support and visitation and latchkey kid, one of my pet peeve words. But through that, instead of getting bitter and angry or not thinking love was true or marriage could work, I actually studied relationships and spent my life really looking at people's relationships that worked and didn't work. And I studied it on both a practical level of the people that I saw and that I knew and I saw, or at least looked like it was working, and I would even ask them questions about what they were doing to make it different. And then also on a real technical level, studies and research and finding out more about that whole area. And how I got into this world of working with dentists and orthodontists and chiropractors is because when I started creating a program called The Business of Marriage about a little over 10 years ago, that program was based upon the idea that if we took business principles and put them into relationships, could we get the same type of results? So if a business does a certain system or principle in their business because they know it's going to get a certain result, can't we do that in relationships too? Can't we do that in marriage too? Well, I had a good friend who was a very successful financial planner, I guess you would call him, or educator. And he started sending me clients because one of the biggest challenges in any marriage is money. So, and not in any marriage, in most marriages, I will say. And the biggest challenges that come up, and the number one cause, or stated cause of divorce, is money. And so he was dealing with finances, and he couldn't get to teaching them the stuff that they really needed to know because they were fighting in their relationship. They couldn't communicate well. Well, I had already helped him out a little bit in his marriage, and so he sent them on to me, and he deals with higher-end clientele, and so that ended up being my clientele. And I would deal with, basically start off with chiropractors, orthodontists, and dentists, and branched out to dentists and other financial planners. And one day, about 4 years ago, I had 3 or 4 years ago, I had a client who was an orthodontist come to me and be like, "Hey, Dino, this stuff is really working great in my marriage, but I'm married to 5 other people in my office. Can you help me out with that communication too?" Now, I don't know if any of you can relate, whether you're a man or a woman, but if you can relate to the term of work wife. But that's what I saw, and I saw this challenge with communication inside the office. And being an entrepreneur for over 20 years now, I actually was able to go into these offices and see what no one else was able to point out to them. And so that's where I started my practice and my mentorship program called The Core. It's the Core is the main program that I teach clients to do. It's a 4-part series. It's pretty simple, but very in-depth and gets amazing results. And my theory is this, is that when you understand your relationships and you understand who you are and you understand how to create a culture based upon your relationships, then people will actually just gravitate towards you. Yes, you have to keep up marketing, and marketing is a part of our plan because marketing is a relationship that you have with your clients. But when you understand that and you're very clear on that and you have an expert position because of who you are, the marketing of your business becomes a lot easier. I always say that 1 or 2 things are going to happen because most practices don't know who they are. Most practices have a culture by default, typically the strongest personality in the office, not by determination. And so when you know who you are, or you start to know who you are, 1 of 2 things is going to happen. Number 1, people are going to be magnetized to you and gravitate to you because there's clarity and purpose and understanding, or it's going to freak them out a little bit and they're going to retract from you. And that happens over and over again. There's a real power and understanding who you are and why you do what you do and what you want to give to the world. And even though that's not part of this training, it's really the core of what I do when we talk about relationships, is understanding who you are as a culture, like what's your vision in life for your business and for the world. And when you're clear on those things, then you get to create expectations for everybody around you. And then when you have those expectations that are clear and decisive and really work as your hiring and firing list for both yourself and your team, then you can create a support system that is unlike any other out there. And that's when you take that practice to the next level, the real needle movers. And maybe I'll do that in another training, and I'll go deeper into that in those trainings because it's a very important part of this. But before you get to that, you have to understand these 3 relationships. So I hope you're ready to go. I hope that gives you enough about me and to see why I have the right to stand here and talk to you about this, and how I'm looking at it a little differently. I always say that no industry will ever be changed from within the industry because you're all dealing with the same type of ideas. Industry movements and big transformations inside of an industry completely change typically by looking outside of the industry. So a very simple example that pretty much everybody understands is the music industry. Over the last 10 years, there's been a complete shift in the music industry. And who created that huge shift? A computer company, Apple. Apple was able to see it from a totally different view and standpoint and said, oh, we need to change this. If we did that and this, we would completely transform the industry. And that's exactly what they did in a very short period of time. So that's my goal. My goal here is to give you kind of a perspective from an outside source so that you can change things. And just so you know, we'll talk about a little bit later on some of the examples and the real true transformation that have happened in some of my clients, so that you see I'm not just talking theory here, I'm talking actual fact. So here we go with the first relationship that you have to have a focus on is your own personal relationship with yourself. Look, let's just put it out there. You know that the dental industry, and Dr. Farran talks a lot about this, so I know that you know this too, but you know that the dental industry has a huge reputation for suicide, drug addiction, and I'll even add affairs, extramarital affairs, because you're not taking care of yourself on a personal basis. You're doctors. You're therefore by nature givers. You're healers. You're nurturers. And the challenge is that for the most part, you give and you give and you give and you forget to actually give back to yourself. There's a saying that says you cannot give from an empty cup. So the more you drain your own cup, the more you do it, the less you have for yourself. But if you fill up that cup every week, then you actually get the opportunity to give more. But if you're not filling up your cup, you have to be very sparing about what you're going to do. You have to be kind of choose which ones you're going to give. Even though you want to give, there's going to be a point where you can't. If any of you know Arianna Huffington, however you feel about her politically, that's not the point. She has a great book called Thrive. And she talks about how one day she found herself, woke up on the floor of her library in a pool of her own blood, because she had collapsed and hit her head and cracked open her head, and maybe it was her chin, and there was blood all around her. And what happened is, after they did all the tests of finding out why she collapsed, she found out she collapsed just because she was exhausted, because she was giving, always on the run, always doing, and never actually feeding herself. It's a great read. There's a lot of really great tips in it. But that's the first tip here, is to, on your personal basis, is to give back to yourself. I have a hypothesis, a theory, if you will, that the reason why there are such bad decisions made by doctors is that when it comes to alcohol abuse or substance abuse of any kind, I should say, or extramarital affairs, is because when they're not taking care of themselves, when they're not focused on filling their own cup, then their brain starts making really bad decisions. So when you're away at a conference and there's somebody else there and nobody else is around, your spouse isn't with you, it's sometimes easier to make that decision as a stress relief, as a somebody who gets me, as a whatever reason, to make that bad choice. Or when it comes to alcohol or drug abuse, there is a very specific way that your brain starts to diminish in its capacity to make smart decisions. It's because you're not taking care of yourself. So my suggestion on taking care of yourself, you got to find a hobby. You got to find something that feeds you besides the work. I get it. I understand that when you're at work, you're in the zone, that's what you love. I understand that. But I believe that creativity begets creativity. And creativity is money. And the more creative you can be, the better focused and attentive you're going to be at what you love to do, which is your job. So get a hobby. Pick up a dance class. Start piano. Start painting. Go bike riding. Go running. Do something that feeds you emotionally. On that same note, whatever that thing is, maybe you're a big movie buff, or maybe you're a big music buff, or whatever, make sure that that actually has the opportunity to surround you in your workplace. So one of the challenges that I've seen, we'll get to a little bit later, is that we don't make our offices someplace that reflects us as a person, who we are. We hire a decorator. We hire somebody who comes in and does what an office should look like. I mean, there are so many offices that I walk into and I'm like, yep, it's an ortho office. Yep, it's a dental office. It just looks like it. Yep, it's a chiro office. Because it almost is like there's a certain book that everybody looks at to get the paint swatches and the fabric swatches and get the same type of furniture. And it's just this kind of blah. It doesn't reflect you. Well, the challenge with that, I believe, is that when we're spending the majority of our life in an office every day, and we're not feeding it with the things that reflect us and the things that we love, then it actually drains you because it's not you. At a very minimum, I suggest to all my clients to get pictures or things that they enjoy and have those in their office so that at least they can go into the office and be surrounded by those things for maybe 10 minutes a day. So the first thing is taking care of yourself. Are you getting the right amount of sleep? Are you taking care of yourself emotionally? Are you giving yourself break time? Not just vacation time, but break time just to enjoy. Are you reading books? So are you taking care of yourself? The second thing that you should be looking at in the personal realm is your spouse. Now, obviously, I started my business with marriage and helping couples have stronger, more powerful marriages. Look, we all know, and look, this is DentalTown. I'm going to talk like I think, well, my perception of what Dr. Farran talks like, which is based upon our short conversations, obviously. But, I mean, come on, you guys. Your marriage is a very important, powerful part of your relationship with yourself. If this isn't going right, how can this be feeling good? If you're not serving well with your spouse, if you're not having a powerful, strong, romantic, loving relationship, then how can you be at your best when you're at your office? I believe that when you have challenges within your marriage, that's always running in the back of your head. And when that's running in the back of your head, you can't give fully to your clients, even though you think you can, even though you think you can compartmentalize. The proof is in the pudding. What typically happens? Well, we either deal with a terrible relationship with our spouse and, we end up figuring out a marriage that is kind of choreographed to where we don't divorce, but we're basically roommates. Or we choose one of the other. I'm not going to choose my business because there are people relying upon me and there's a lot of financial concerns about that. So I'm going to choose to just get another spouse. I'm going to choose to let that go. But I believe, because I've seen it over and over again, that your business is a reflection of your marriage, and your marriage is a reflection of your business. And if you can't communicate well in your marriage, well, then you're not communicating well in your business either. If you're having challenges within your marriage, there's a reflection that happens over here in your business, and people can sense it. I also believe that you have a responsibility as someone who is a leader, just by default because you own a business, to all the people that are around you, to have a powerful marriage so they can see what that looks like, so they can have hope that, man, a successful, wonderful, talented person can have a thriving, amazing marriage as well. This is how I first actually got into the realm of working with dentists and orthodontists and chiropractors when that orthodontist asked me if I could help with communication. After I helped him in his office, he actually invited me to come and speak at one of their study groups. And I have a whole course on the demise of a relationship. And then I gave this whole speech on the 7 steps to the demise or the divorce of a relationship and how they can get out of that. And that introduced me into the world of orthodontics and dentistry. So I want you to realize that when you have a powerful relationship with your spouse, then things go better in your relationship and in your business because you can put the focus on where the focus needs to be. And then the last thing in your personal is your spiritual side. And once again, I'm not going to go into religion, but what's the connection that you have with yourself personally? Are you just thrilled to do what you do? Does it energize you? Does it drive you? Does it give you a sense of spirituality? And I mean, you've seen people, if you're somebody who is a religious person, I'm a very religious person, but if you're somebody who when you're feeling that spirit, but I can take that same analogy and put it to a football game or a baseball game. Maybe you're a big college football fan. And when you go to those games and you feel that energy and that excitement because you're all in this thing together, that spirit, do you feel that when you walk into your office? Do you feel that power of the personal relationship with your spiritual side in your office? And if not, that's something to address. How can you get back to that? I think a part of it is the love that we give to ourselves. The help that we give our own selves on feeding that cup, on filling that cup up. And that's kind of what I want you to focus on. So in these 3 areas, you can actually have more power and performance and peace and happiness. And this first relationship is the most important one. This is the most important one. I would say that if you are feeling lack in any of these, and there's a lot, by the way, I have a whole chapter in my book about the personal relationship. These are just 3 things that I picked out of there. You can go into your personal vision and your why and why you do what you do. You can go into giving yourself time off in the sense of a break for what you do. You can talk about how much you do versus how much you shouldn't do, because I guarantee you, 99.9% of you are doing way more than you should in your office. Number one, because you don't trust the other people, but number two, because you think you're the only person in the world who can do that thing. And that's causing you a lot of pain and stress and frustration. But these 3 areas are where I feel like you can focus on first and go from there. By the way, that brings up a really good point. And once again, I'm doing this off kind of the top of my head, so I just want you to see I might have a thought and I'm going to bring that to you. A lot of times I'll get a question of, okay, Dino, what's the one thing I can do? What's the thing that I can move the needle in my office, and how can I make my team do this way and not go back to the old way? Or how can they want the big shift? They want the big answer. And I'm here to tell you there isn't one. I know some people might tell you, hey, this will solve all of your credit card processing problems, or this will solve all of your accounts receivable problems, or this will solve all of your employee problems. I don't believe that. There's a great book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And in there he talks about how we all do things based upon habit, not on choice. We think we choose, but we don't. It's all a habit. And the only way to change habits are by really doing the small, simple, incremental things that will eventually change it. You can get to massive shifting change just by doing a small, simple, incremental things. So, out of all the stuff we talk about today, I want you just to even find one thing out of these 3 areas of the relationships that I want you just to focus on and think, man, if I just focus on that for the next 30 days, and all I did, so just take the next 30 days and just focus on yourself more often. Focus on, for example, yourself. What if I just took myself and I actually said, no, I'm going to take some time out of me. I'm going to replace frustration and stress and overwhelm, and I'm going to just focus on things that I want to do. I'm going to give myself some me time. Or if you took the next 30 days and said, I'm just going to focus on my spouse and having a relationship between the two of us that really matters. And I'm going to show her what she means to me, or he means to me. I don't mean to say that only men are watching this. But I'm going to take her on a date. That's an actual real date, not just, hey, let's go to a dinner and a movie, but or because I have a conference, we're going there. No. I'm going to make this a memorable thing to let them know that I care and I want to focus on them. Or my spirituality. I'm going to focus on my own connection with my higher power, whatever that is, or for you. Or I'm going to focus on the feeling that I get when I walk in the office. And that's on me, right? I want you to get that. That's on you. How you walk into that office and what you bring into that office is totally on you. There's this, I do this thing in all of my trainings at the very beginning where I'll say, okay, there's 3 rules. And the first rule is you are responsible for you. Because then it takes away all the excuses. Because you either have reasons or you have results in life, right? I want you to write that one down. You either have reasons or results. You can have all the reasons in the world why you can't give yourself some personal relationship time, or why you can't focus more on your spouse and it's their fault or whatever, or why you don't have this spiritual connection. You can give all the reasons you want, but you either have reasons or results. And if your result right now is frustration, overwhelm, stress, burnout, that's your results, and you got them. So be responsible for you, and decide that when you're going to walk in the office now over the next 30 days, that your main frame of focus is positivity. I'm going to be positive no matter what. Positive, 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 positive. I know that sounds Pollyanna-ish, but that's what happens, because your brain and your mind create your reality. So I want you just to focus on those 3 things, or some of those things, for the next 30 days and see what happens. Try it out. You got nothing to lose, right? All right, we're moving on. I hope you're getting some out of this. I know I talk fast. I know I'm trying to get a lot of this in. Dr. Farran asked me to do an hour-long training. I'm trying to get it all in within the hour. So let's make sure we can get that in there. All right, so the next area that I want you to focus on is your team, because this relationship is the most important. I might as well take this out now. So you got your team. And this is the first area that this is kind of a pet peeve of mine, and I hope you'll stay with me on this, is the way that you look at things in life is going to determine how you treat them. Now, I know this is a subliminal thing, but your team versus your staff. I hear this all the time, the word staff, and I correct people all the time. Because the last thing anybody wants is a staff. You know what a staff is? A staff is an infection nobody wants. That's right. I want a team. A team is a group of people who are supportive of me and are willing to do whatever it takes, it's a key word, whatever it takes, to make sure we all get somewhere. If the first baseman does a really good job, it's not just for him, it's for the entire team. If the quarterback rocks, it's not just for him, it's for the entire team. But a staff to me is a group of individuals who are there to do a job, who are there to collect a paycheck. And that staff is not going to do more for you. That staff is not going to go above and beyond what is their job description, because they're a staff. Also, a staff, and I'm using the word as an infection, yes, you'll know when you have a staff versus a team because one person who's there just to do a job, even if you're trying to build a team of people, a group of people who do whatever it takes for you or forever the entire group to get somewhere, you let one staff in, one person who's there just to punch a clock. One person is there because they've been there forever and you don't have the guts to fire them. Or one person who is insubordinate and destructive, but they're really a, quote, nice person. Then that one staff is going to be an infection to the rest of your team. And eventually, they will infect everybody else. So when your relationship with your team is of staff as opposed to team, then you have a real challenge there. Now, this is something that Dr. Farran and I talked about on the podcast, and I want to talk about this here in case you missed it, but there's a little bit of a fine line here, right? Because when you create a team where we're all together, we're working hard, we're doing what it takes to make it happen, but there also needs to be the separation between the owner of the team and the players. There has to be, because there has to be that respect. And although you love these players, you love the team members, and you want for their good, your job is to create a line between where I am an owner and where I am a part of the team. You cannot go out and party with your whole entire team and have a good old time and go out for cocktails with everybody, and then the next day expect to have to discipline somebody that you just partied with the night before. I've seen this in offices and the challenges that come down the road. I mentioned this example on my on the podcast with Dr. Farran about how I had a client who 2, 3, 4 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, they actually had a little team party, a retreat, and they went out and they were out drinking and dancing. They're all drinking and dancing together. And the doctor, because he was drinking, he was inebriated, he actually, and not too bad, but you drink and everybody knows, I don't have to explain this to your doctors, but your brain kind of shuts down a little bit, right? Well, he was out dancing with a group of girls, and one girl in particular, and they started doing some like gyrating and some kind of dirty dancing on the floor that they should have done, absolutely not, and nothing happened. Like, it was fine. Cut to 2 years later when she quit, or actually was fired, let go, asked to leave, however you want to put it, and she sued him for sexual harassment. Yeah, pretty expensive lawsuit that he had to just pay off just to not go through all this stuff. Embarrassing to his wife, embarrassing to his family, embarrassing to everybody else that knew about it. So there is a separation that needs to happen there, and you need to be very clear on what that separation is. You can love them, you can care for them, you can want for their good, but you also need to know that you have a professional distance between the two of you. There's a lot of stuff we can talk about going around there, but the idea here is that you need to understand your job is to build a team and not allow a staff. I know it sounds semantics, and it sounds almost to some of you silly, like, come on, does that make a big difference? But the words that we call each other is very important. I'm a big fan of not calling like your front desk girl the front desk girl, or the receptionist. They're the client care concierge, or the first impressions girl. Like, there are different names that we talk about. Once again, I talk about all this in my book, that actually make a difference. And especially when you tell a client, oh, you're going to go see Sally, she's our customer care representative, or she's the financial coordinator, whatever, it's going to help them see, oh, this is a specific person, this is their job, this is their duty. There's a lot of very creative names you can come up with, but this isn't about creative names. This is about the truth behind, you either have a staff or you have a team, or you have staff within your team that are going to affect them, and you need to get rid of them real fast so that you can create a true team. Moving on. All right, number 2 is you have to lead by example. And this is one of the biggest challenges I know that I see a lot, is that just because you're a business owner, just because you have a degree in something, it doesn't make you a leader. And that's a hard pill to swallow, I know, because hey, you've achieved everything you wanted in life. You have strived for excellence always. You've probably never been told that you've failed anything. You worked and worked and worked and worked really hard. But some of you are terrible leaders. Some of you don't know how to lead. You don't know how to influence people. And so in order to do that correctly, you have to start learning from other people and lead them by example. Be willing to say, hey team, I don't know how to do this, so I'm going to learn. Hey guys, I'm not sure how to accomplish this goal either, so I'm going to find somebody and I'm going to learn. And I'm going to do it too. People will not respect you unless you get in the muck with them. I do a whole training on influence and how to influence people, and how big part of influence is that you got to be able to tell people how to think about themselves, and about the world. And you have to be the one to be able to say, this is how we need to think about this. And then you have to do that thing. In our training on core values, now we have a huge training on core values that really get into it. And it's not just, oh, we have integrity or we have the best customer service, because who doesn't say that, right? No, we get into like real meaningful core values. And one of the biggest challenges that comes up is sometimes the doctor will say, yeah, let's create these core values and let's get these things really, really nailed down and awesome. And we deliver wow service, and we only have good days and great days, and we're the best part of every customer's day, and things like that, right? And then they don't hold themselves accountable for it. They think it's a list that they want everybody to do for them. It's like their recipe or their checkoff list for everybody else to do. Oh, but me, I'm the boss. I shouldn't be accountable to that. And that's BS. That is the fastest way to get dissension amongst your ranks in your team. Because when you're not leading by example, by saying, hey, if I'm asking you to do it, I'm going to do it. There are bosses that I know, or owners that I know, that will say, hey, everybody needs to be here at 8 o'clock, but me. Well, no, we're either going to hold a line or we're not. And there are certain things, obviously, that you're responsible for that they're not. Totally get that and understand. But when I'm talking about what you stand for in your core values, who you are as a person, what you're going to expect of yourself when you show up, how you're going to talk to clients, how you're going to be clear in your directions, how you're going to challenge yourself, and how you're going to push yourself, you have to lead by example. And once again, I know you're probably sitting there going, well, yeah, of course I know that. But are you doing it? Are you really doing it? If I were to do a survey, which we do, by the way, a survey with everybody on your team and ask these type of questions, what would the answers be back? How would other people say, oh yeah, that's who they are? Their follow through. Are you like, we won't go into this other area, but because we don't have time, but we'll go into this. And then lastly is open and honest communication. This is fascinating to me, what I see happen a lot. Teams that are expected to support and help and move the needle for the doctor, but the team is clueless as to where they are as a company, as to what's actually going on. Dr. Farran gave the example on the podcast about doctors who, the whole team leaves for the day at 5 o'clock and they're all happy, and he says zippity doo dah, zippity day, walk out the door. While the doctor then, as soon as they leave, is out coughing up blood clots because they're so stressed about not being able to make payroll. Well, why aren't you being open and honest with your team about the challenges that you're having and the wins, by the way? I'm not just talking about everything has to be doom and gloom. But why are you not having a state of the business conversation with them every quarter? Why are you not being open with them about what the challenges are that you have so that they can help out? Because I guarantee you, if you've done the job of building a team versus a staff, which is in your hiring process and everything else, but if you've done the job of creating a team, then you will have people who will get on board and want to do whatever they can to help you. The number one reason why referrals are a challenge with most companies is because the owner only says, hey guys, we should be asking for more referrals, or you're hoping for the referral from the other doctor, but you're not making the practice of asking for referrals to from your team members to other people. a habit. And the reason why is because you're not being open and honest with them about where you are, about what the company is doing. Have a state of the business meeting at least quarterly to find out where they are. When you're stressed, when things aren't going well, when this case went bad, let them know. Not as a punishment, not as a, look, you guys messed this up, but like, wow, what did we do? Like, let's reflect. In the medical community, they have the M&Ms, right? Where they will sit down with each other and they will look at, okay, what happened in this case? What went wrong? What went right? How can we do better? Well, stop being an island. Stop only sharing with maybe your office manager. Share with everybody. Let everybody know. There's a great book called Move Your Bus. And I cannot name the author right now, but it's Move Your Bus. It's a red book and it's got a yellow bus on it. It's a very simple read, but it talks about the type of people that you want in your organization. And it talks about you're either going to have drivers, you're going to have runners, you're going to have joggers, walkers, or riders. And you can pretty much guess what those people do in your business, right? That you want a majority of the runners and the joggers instead of having a majority of the walkers and the riders. And I know a lot of you have riders in your offices, but you have to be open and honest with them. Matter of fact, when it comes to employees, if you are not open and honest about their performance and about how well they're doing versus how they're not, and you're not open and honest about them being a fit in your office or not, you're killing the people who are a fit. There's a great point in the book, Good to Great, where they talk about for every person who is kind of pulling you down, that's not working well in your business, that isn't a part of your vision and understands all your core values and really a rock star, then it is actually pulling down all the rock stars that you have. So those people who are trying to be a member of the team are being pulled down by the staff. But what will happen is that not only will they be pulled down, but your rock stars will start working not as effectively. They'll see that you allow this to happen and they'll lose respect and they'll think, well, man, I don't have to bring in my all. I don't have to give my key performance because this guy's not doing it and he's okay with that or she's okay with that. I was talking to a wonderful businesswoman the other day on another interview, and she was talking about how the fact that, when you have goals and aspirations in your business, if you have any member of your team who is not on board and who is not rocking it with you, you'll never really be able to hit all those goals. You can't. See, a lot of people have the misconception that if we have enough rock stars and enough really good people that are on board with me, then even though we have this person down here, as an anchor, we'll pull them up the hill with us. But that's not true. Number one, why would you want to do that, right? Why don't you get everybody else here so you can get up faster? But number two, this person is actually pulling you back down their way. It's just the way it happens, as evidence in the book Good to Great. So, understand the difference between a team and a staff. Lead by example and be open and honest in all of your communications with them and be okay with that. These people dedicate their lives to you. And if you want them to have loyalty and trust and belief in you, you have to be willing to build this. That's a relationship that is so important. By the way, when I go through these 3 relationships, first with yourself, personal, then your team, and the next one, this is the order of importance. It's not just like a random order. This is the order of importance. You notice that number 2 is not the client, okay? So number 3 then is the client. So we had yourself personally, then your team, then the clients. And that is truly the order of where it goes. Of course, your clients, they bring in the money, right? They're the ones who you're there to serve. And that's awesome and that is powerful. But sometimes we get that out of whack. And there are many great quotes out there talking about how when you focus on your team first and you hire correctly and you have amazing people there, they'll take care of the clients for you. Like that's something as a business owner, if you hired correctly, you shouldn't have to put too much thought or effort into making sure these people feel like you have a relationship with them because your team will do that. A lot of times we get into the situation of the person feeling like, well, if I'm not the one to do this, or they want to see me, they want to talk to me. This happens a lot in the orthodontic world when it comes to treatment coordinating, presenting a case, or in the dentistry world when we're presenting a case. Sometimes the doctors get an ego of like, well, I have to be there to help them or to explain the exam, or they're not going to feel like I have that personal touch with them. And what they don't understand, and what I hope you do understand, is that when you create a situation where your team is a representative of you, You don't have to be in that room. When I come to my orthodontic clients and I go and I observe and I watch how much time they spend inside the exam with a patient when they're going to decide to get braces or not, I mean, if they're spending more than 2-3 minutes in the exam, they're there way too long. You did not hire a rock star salesperson, a TC, which, look, your treatment coordinators, your sales representatives, they better be salespeople, by the way. That's a whole nother topic. But like, that's really important. So with your clients, the first part of the relationship that you need to understand is that they have to know, like, and trust you. And you're going right now, rolling your eyes, going, oh, duh, of course. No. Not duh, of course. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing that we see over and over again. So the client trusts that you know what you're doing. Number one, you have a building, your name's over the door, and a lot of you have your plaques of your diplomas right over your desk, and that's awesome. And we're going to assume that you're not doing anything illegal and that you actually have the right to practice. So that's the reason. So they automatically have a trust that they know you know what you're doing. But do they know and do they like you? Do they know and do they like you? Go look at your website. Go look at your About Us page or Meet the Doctor page. And I am going to say that 9 out of 10 of you that go and look at that right now, because some of you don't even know what's on there other than what you gave them 10 years ago when you had some dude build your website for you, which is most likely a templated website. And once again, it doesn't show off your personality. It doesn't show off who you are. But I can guarantee you that you probably have on there where you graduated, what associations you're associated with, what accolades you have, and probably a picture of your kids or you somewhere in some like nature setting where you're all happy and smiling and that, right? But most of you, 9 of you out of the 10 of you, will have nothing in there about who you are to get them to know you. Like that you are a huge Star Wars fanatic, that you are someone who is, I have a client who loves to ski so much that in college, she actually was the top of the pyramid at one of those, ski things where they got up on top of each other, like ski ballet, I don't know what it's called, but that's something I want to have on the website. Why? Because it creates this is a real person, not just a doctor, not just somebody who studied something so they're allowed to put their fingers in my mouth, but I want to know and like them. How are you creating a know and like situation with them? Again, only 3 areas out of the entire chapter of the book on clients, but this is so important to understand that, we get it. You do what you do. As a matter of fact, I might even know that you are good at it by the accolades that you show on there in the sense of the awards you've won. But do I really like you as a person? Like, how can I? How can I have that connection with you? And you only have a few minutes to have that connection with each person. And for the most part, it's small talk, right? But when there is that real connection with them because you have created a way for them to know who you are, and this is where we go all the way back to what I said earlier with your office. Like, does your office reflect your personality? I have a client, a dentist who is an avid golfer. Like, every chance he gets, he can get out on the golf. I know that probably speaks to a lot of you on here, but he loves golfing. And so I said, well, how come, and he's won awards and challenges and all this other stuff. I said, well, how come in your front office you don't have anything about you of the golfing? Like, it could be decorated with some golfing stuff, tastefully. It can have a air of this is who the doctor is before you even get to know them. I have another client who did a great job at that in their waiting room, they didn't have like the normal People magazines and the National Geographics or whatever. No, they had like huge coffee table books of Marvel comics or picture books of across the world of beautiful sceneries. And it reflected both the doctor and his wife's, because his wife was a big part of the business, their personalities. And the music that was chosen was a part of their personality. And the way that everybody sang to everybody as they got their braces on or off. And I mean, it was all part of the package because that's who they were. And that gave them a like and a trust, and that creates the virality of who these people are. You think little Johnny's not going to be going like, dude, you're crazy if you don't go to Dr. So-and-so, man, they rock, they do this, man, I just had a fun time at my doctor's office. That's the type of referral that you want. But that's not going to happen if you have the sterile, this is our office, it's painted tan, and we have what's it called, the basic nondescript photos on the wall, and it's, you know, quiet environment and nobody talk. Maybe your personality is that, but make sure it is your personality if you're going to do that. Know, like, and trust. Number one way you create a relationship with your clients. The next one is asking for referrals. This is so crucial and yet so underdone in your industry. What do I mean by that? Look, if I'm your friend and I really care or had a great experience someplace, I'm going to tell you, right? Dude, have you seen Star Wars? Like, that was an amazing movie. Because you're my friend, I'm going to tell you that. If we're not friends, I'm not going to say anything to you about that. Or even more so, hey, have you eaten at this restaurant? Like, that was the best Mexican I've had in a long time. Well, you need to ask for the referrals. Hey, where do you think I should go to eat? What movies have you seen lately that you think are good? Your ability to ask for the referral creates a relationship with your clients. You're thinking, or most people, I'm not going to assume, most people think that when you ask them for a referral, it puts an awkward feeling between the two of us. But if you do it correctly, you're actually showing them that you care enough about them that you want more of people like them in your office. You're reminding them, hey, you know, our business, it grows on referrals, and we want to make sure we're giving the best service possible. Who in your family or your friends do you know is looking for dental care that we can even just reach out to? You don't have to do anything. We'll just send them out a postcard, or we'll give them a call. Is there anybody like that you can think of? I know it's hard for you guys to get in, and for a lot of cases, I'm being general, to get into the referral aspect of things. But this is a relationship that you need to have with your clients because it makes them feel important. And guess what happens the moment they refer someone to you? There's a bond there. Because now they have a responsibility. Now they have a feeling of ownership of you. Now they feel like, hey, yeah, I got my friend Sally to come here. And you're appreciative. You're saying, hey, thanks for referring Sally. That's awesome. And she, whoever she is or he is, has a sense of pride. Like, yeah, that's cool. I helped you with your business. I helped Sally. She loves it. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know this means you got to be given kick-butt service so that they'd want to refer you. And that goes into a lot of other stuff too. But man, if you're creating this know, like, and trust relationship with your clients, then this is a no-brainer. This is not awkward. This is natural. But when you don't, when you refuse to ask them for referrals, the exact opposite happens. You think they're going, oh God, man, they're not asking me for a referral. That's great. But they're not. They're subconsciously going, oh, how come they don't ask me for referrals? Why don't they want my friends to be here too? Do they not have enough belief in their own service that they would ask for that? Maybe I should question if I should come here or not. What loyalty am I creating? Like, when you do that, you're actually creating a loyal client forever. So, just something to think about. And last one on clients is, you have to be willing to fire them. You have to be willing to fire the clients who are not doing as you want them to do. You have to be willing to say, you know what? We have a certain standard in our business. We have certain core values that we adhere to, and we have to have our clients adhere to that too. If your client is continually not doing what you ask them to do, if your client is being a pain in your bum, then you have a right to fire them. Guess what? And this is write this one down. There is no shortage of sick people. There's not. There's no shortage of people who need their teeth done. There's no shortage of people who need their teeth straightened. There's not. You just have to be willing to say, I want this type of client in my office. These are the type of people that we want to attract. But for the most part, because you don't know how to focus on, these are our clientele. This is who we help. This is the ideal person that we want walking in our doors. Then you get anybody. So when I do some training sometimes for people who want to be coaches and mentors and stuff like that. And I say, so who's your ideal client? And they'll go, oh, I can help everybody. Really? You can help everybody? Because if you try to help everybody, you end up helping nobody. Now, I know you don't have to be a specialist at anything, like if you don't want to. You can be a general practitioner, that's fine. What I'm saying though is you need to know who is the ideal client for you. Is this the person who doesn't have a problem brushing and flossing and showing up every 6 months to get their cleanings done and do all the things that you want them to do as a client? And if not, and especially if they're causing more pain than pleasure in your own life, you have to be willing to fire them. The client is not always right. The customer is not always right. And the faster you learn that, and the faster you stand for something and have a line drawn in the sand of what you will and won't do and who you'll accept into your practice, because it is your practice, the faster you're going to create a culture and a respect around what you do like none other. And you have to tell them what type of people you want. What I mean by that is you have to know, like I'm an orthodontist, I tell them, okay, what age range do you want to work with? Do you want to work with the phase 1s that are like between the 8 and the 12-year-olds? Or do you only want to work with teenagers? Or what type of mom and dads do you want? What income range do you want them to have? You have to know that type of thing. But even more so, you have to be willing to create that culture of people that so for your own mindset, that you're seeing the same type of person on a more consistent basis. We have cultures all around us all the time that are created. We have an Apple culture or we have a PC culture. It's definitely two different cultures. There's types of people there. They, even in the movies, they have a Team Jacob or Team whatever his name is. I don't remember what their names are. But there's always cultures being created around you, and that's what you have to do, is create that culture. And the faster you do, the faster you stand for something and you know who you are, the faster people are going to create a stronger relationship with you. I have a client out of Northern California who, when we first started, he kind of wasn't quite sure on the ideal client that he wanted. And by the way, knowing who your ideal client is basic business 101. This is what I'm saying at the very beginning. No one taught you this stuff, I understand. But knowing who your clientele is basic business 101. Well, he didn't know who his clientele was. And we worked really hard on creating a very specific culture and knowing exactly who he was and the type of people he wanted in the office. And the first year, about 6 months into the program, was a January, and I wanted him to set a goal for January and know specifically how many starts he wanted. And he is an orthodontist, and he was typically on the range of about 25 to 30 starts in a month. And the most they'd ever done was 35 starts. And so this particular January, we decided to have him set a goal, and he set a goal with his team of 40 starts in 1 month. And that was going to push him, like he knew it. And they pushed and pushed and pushed. And this was actually last January. And on the last day of the month, they got their 40th start for the month. And that was a huge deal. That was awesome. Well, I just talked to him last week, and this was a really cool phone call because two great things came out of it. Number one, when it comes to referrals and leads coming in, he's like, Dino, I don't know what's happening. And by the way, this has been now 2 years that they're in the program. So he knows this. He's got his culture built. He knows exactly who he is. He's got his core values down. All the things that we talk about here and a lot more. But it's just an amazing office. And he's like, Dino, I honestly don't know what's happening, but every day we're getting 7 to 10 new patient calls coming into the office. I haven't changed my marketing. I haven't changed my advertising. Like, we've done only what we've talked about, but nothing's really changed. So I don't know what's going on, but we are not having a problem with leads right now. And I said, well, I know it's exactly what's going on. It's what I told you at the very beginning of the program. When you know who you are and you create that culture and that virality of who you are, people start talking. And people will be magnetized. That energy will come into your office and you will get those referrals. And then the second thing that happened is he goes, well, let me tell you about this month. You know how last year we set a goal for 40? I said, yes. I'm taping this in January, by the way, so whenever you're watching it, you'll understand the reference, the time frame. And so he said, this month we decided to push ourselves, because last year was a big push, to 41. We were going to do 41. Well, we were talking on, I believe it was the 14th of the month, somewhere around the 14th or 15th. And he said, Dino, yesterday we were at 39. So not even halfway through the month, and already going to hit their goal and then way surpass it, right? It's because of the relationship that he has now with his clients, with himself. His testimonial to me was, man, I thought I was doing okay, but I was just stressed at work. And business-wise, we were doing okay, but work was stressing me and frustrating me. And now, like, work energizes him. He's doing more than he'd ever thought he could. He's excited every day to go into work. And that's what I'm hoping for you. And it's all based upon these 3 principles and extended a lot more, like I said over and over again. But I hope that that serves you, and we'll bring that all the way back to the top there, about the 3 main areas that you need to be working on. Here you go. The 3 relationships that will transform your practice. Truly believe that. I thank you for letting me have this time with you. And I truly believe that when you focus on yourself, your team, and then your clients in that order, you will have a practice relationship like none other. You will have other doctors coming up to you going, what are you doing? Like, I have heard about this practice and how amazing things are going. You will have that virality that I talk about. If you'd like to know more, please feel free to pick up my book, The Practice RX. It's on Amazon right now. There you go. International #1 best-selling book. But I hope to see you at an event coming up. This was just a training that I put together for Dr. Farran. Maybe I'll put another one together about how to create a culture. I created a thing called the culture equation. It's a formula on how you create your own specific culture in your office. I'd love to teach that to you as well. But man, just a joy to have this opportunity to speak to all of you, and I hope it serves you in some way. I hope you got even just one thing out of it. Focus on that one thing. Best of luck to you. Remember that you can have a practice that is more productive, have more passion, and definitely create more profit. Have a great day.